Your teenage child has been struggling with functional neurological disorder, short for FND, that includes non-epileptic seizures. And then as a dedicated parent, of course you want to do anything and everything to help your child. However, are you actually accommodating your child too much? By that, you're doing essentially anything and everything for your child. Did you know that accommodation is one of the biggest perpetuating factors for your child to continue to have FND? Let's dive in. Hey, I'm Dr. Lee here, pediatric health psychologist and the founder of Teen FND Academy. Today's video is about why accommodations for teen FND is a bad idea. So let's dive in. First of all, what is FND? Functional neurological disorder, short for FND, is an umbrella term to describe this crosswire problem between the brain and the body. Even though your child's brain and body are physiologically and structurally fine, it is a real diagnosis, very common diagnosis you would get in neurology clinic, even though nobody knows about it, including probably you, until your child was diagnosed with FND. It is a biopsychosocial phenomenon, so it's not just one thing that is causing the problem. So let's talk about what is accommodation to begin with. So I'm going to read off of the notes here. So essentially, as I mentioned, accommodation is basically anything and everything you do for your child, okay? But I do have some examples. The examples specifically for teen FND, this is a teen FND, includes feeding your child, stroking your child's hair or body during FND episodes, changing your schedule when your teen throws a tantrum. Like, don't go to a business trip. I don't know what to do. I'm going to be having a hard time. That kind of thing. And then you're going to change that schedule for your business. Sleeping with your child. That happens. I've seen it. Picking up your child from school the minute, if not a second, she texts you, come get me. Letting your child sleep in. Letting your child not engaging in schoolwork, house chore, other responsibilities while your child is spending all day and all night on the phone, on TV, video games, hanging out with friends, stuff like that. So these are the typical examples of parents' accommodation with teens who are struggling with FND. And some of them might be just accommodating teens in general, but this is specific to the context of FND. So what is really wrong with accommodation? Why is it such a bad idea? Well, first of all, let me validate you, because I always want to start with the validation. Let me validate you. The way you're accommodating your child is purely because of this care and concern that you have as a dedicated parent. So that itself is, there's nothing wrong with it. Your intention is definitely on par, right on the money. You have to be feeling like dedicated and good parents, right? So you're definitely coming from the good place, care and concern. And related to that, another validation point from me to you, you are likely feeling bad for your child. Because I hear this all the time, especially from your moms, but dads as well. So parents in general. My kid is already having a hard time with FND, and she's already in a lot of pain, both physically and mentally, emotionally. So why make it harder? If I put my foot down, it's going to be so bad and it's going to be worse. So I want to do anything and everything to ease the pain, because if I can accommodate, if that is going to help my child, then why not? You are literally going above and beyond to accommodate, trying to help your child, right? So there's nothing wrong with that spirit. What is the consequence though? Because there's always a cause and effect. So there's a consequence. Number one, you're not being able to put a healthy boundary at all. Therefore, you reinforce unconsciously your child's current status, which is your child continues to struggle with FND. Because I have never heard of a single family whose parents are accommodating like this and the child's FND is gone, like completely resolved. It's quite the opposite. I've seen it, heard it 100% of the time. The parents continue to accommodate and child continues to struggle with FND. I have seen and worked with as old as teenagers who are still sleeping with their parents because the parents feel terrified. What happens if my child has an FND episode and having these seizures in the middle of the night? I need to stay. That's one of accommodation. However, well, I guess to make the matters worse, here is the real consequence. The real consequence is you as a parent feel frustrated and devastated because you don't have your life anymore. And this is not good, And at the same time, your child obviously does not get better. If not, she actually gets worse and deteriorated. Now that she is in bed all day, every day, and now she cannot even walk, now she cannot even move, now she cannot even eat, now all of that stuff. It's just snowballing. Or the symptoms are so fluctuating and you are about to have a heart attack in any second. And you and your child, as a real consequence, are so stuck in this deep, deep mud, like abyss, basically, like super deep hole. In the meantime, you continue to feel bad, like, oh, it's so hard for me to see my child suffer and struggle. If only I can sacrifice, then I can save my child. In other words, you don't know what else to do. So you're just defaulting to being a good parent. That's all. So what can you do? I'm going to tell you exactly what to do to get out of this rut, all right? But fundamentally speaking, you need to make sure your child's diagnosis is FND. If your child is having something else completely other than FND, then this does not necessarily apply. Well, it kind of does, but I'm talking specific to FND here. So A, make sure FND diagnosis indeed correct. And B, you need to educate yourself what FND is, including this kind of perpetuating factors. Perpetuating factors are not necessarily the reason why your child is having an FND, but it is a reason why your child's fire of FND continues to be alive, basically. And there are so many factors. It's not just this one, but parent accommodation is one of the biggest ones, I can tell you. So like I said, you have to educate yourself what FND is and what is not, all right? And then fundamentally speaking, one more thing, you've got to find an FND specialist to work with. FND is a special issue that you need to work with a specialist. It's that simple. If your child has a cavity, and I don't know why I keep bringing this cavity, bad teeth, situation, but you're going to take your child to see a dentist, not a foot doctor, right? So same thing, FND specialist. Specifically, you've got to talk to your child. This is a step one, to have a sort of reset conversation. So this is what it would look like. Hey, I didn't know, after watching this video, I didn't know what to do to help you. So I've done things I was not supposed to do, which I thought was helpful, but I wasn't sure, and I know why, and I know now it doesn't help. It is actually called accommodation. And for me, the accommodation includes fill in the blank. Whatever you were doing that that was not really helpful, but didn't know what else to do, therefore you were doing. Anything and everything that you were doing to quote unquote help your child that was not really helpful. So fill in the blank, come clean, reset conversation. You are being a role model. So when you show up like that, then your child is going to respect you over time. Not necessarily right away. Well, maybe right away, but over time, guaranteed. All right. And so continue. In order to really help you, this is also still a conversation. In order to really help you to get better, we will need to do things differently. So that is a reset conversation. Step 2, you have to start returning to your own life pre-FND with baby steps. So that might look like you can commit to yourself and then you can announce to your child. So one of the things that I'm going to be doing differently moving forward is I'm going to start doing XYZ once a week or however minutes a daily, whatever you were doing every day. So let's just say that you were every day walking outside for 30 minutes and you stopped doing that because you feel like you have to be 24/7 caregiver for your child with FND. you need to start going back to that life. So if that means I'm going to be out for 10 minutes every day for walking, I'm going to be out next week 15 minutes a day, 20 minutes, and so on. All right. Or if you were working and if you're on like a leave, medical leave for your child, then you can say, well, of course, work with your employer or work situation. You can also say, I'm going back to work, and have someone else be available for you. Not necessarily on site, but be available for you. Again, you may not be able to do this on a day one, but that is the intention that you're getting back to. So start with the baby steps. Number two, you've got to start setting the boundaries. And this might be what is keeping you from changing or stop doing accommodation. But this is exactly what you need to do, which is setting the boundary. So again, talking about expectations. What kind of expectations are you wanting to set for your child? Whether it's a home, extracurricular activities, or social situations at home, house chores, any other responsibilities, whatever. You're going to set the expectations and talk to your child about your idea. You don't need to tell your child like a doorbuster style, but you can present, this is important, and these are the things we need to reestablish or start doing. That also includes screen time. If your child is on the phone all the time, and then you thinking, yeah, but that's the only time my child is having this social life, and that's the only joy my child has. I get it. Make them earn. Make her earn, make him earn by doing these expectation things. Okay? So that is how you're going to set the clear boundary and expectations. They go hand in hand. So let me talk about troubleshooting. What are you going to be doing if your child is having an FND episode? Well, first of all, you've got to do your own anxiety management on the spot. There is an 8 parent tips handout PDF down below. The link is below. Check it out. Doing anxiety management on the spot is actually step 2 of the 8 tips that you're going to be doing. Number 1 is self-care. But if your child is having the FND episode, then number 1, you do your own thing to remain calm. Okay? Because you are co-regulating with your child instead of quote unquote accommodating your child in that moment. That is a better way to really help your child getting out of FND rut. And you can be present both physically and mentally in that space, but you don't need to do anything. So you don't need to talk, you don't need to hold, nothing. You don't need to, as long as your child is semi-physically safe, you don't really need to do anything. You don't need to hold, you don't need to caress, you don't need to do anything. You don't need to help your child getting out of that episode as soon as possible, because that is also accommodation. So you don't need to ask questions. Where are you? What time is it right now? Spell your name. Who is this person? How old are you? None of that. You are basically putting gasoline to the fire, thinking you're putting out the fire by pouring the water. These are accommodations that you've got to stop. And at the same time, let your child do its own thing during that episode. As long as, again, parameter-wise, safe, so if your child is like out on the street in traffic, well, obviously you can't just let's just see what my child's going to do. Well, you can't do that. Obviously, use common sense, But aside from that, even if you feel very uncomfortable, leave your child alone, mentally speaking, okay? You can be present physically, and you can, again, remain calm to co-regulate with your child. But other than that, even if it gets worse in the beginning, you've got to let go of that control, because accommodation is another way of you trying to control the situation. The thing and the problem with that is it is your child's body. So there's so much control you can have. Your child is not a baby or infant anymore. Again, we're talking about teen FND. So as much as you want to control and to make you feel better by reducing your own anxiety, that is not the way to really help your child. That's why do your own anxiety management, remain calm. You can be present, but you don't really need to do anything. The more you can let your child do its own thing, the faster, believe or not, she can get better. So just recap, specifically speaking, talk to your child, reset conversation, and start returning to your life with baby steps, okay? By announcing this is what you're going to be doing. And number 3, setting the boundary with clear expectations. Home, school, social, extracurricular, whatever it is, screen time, reward system, it doesn't matter what it is specifically, have the expectation somewhere, okay? And then number 4, troubleshooting. During an FND episode, again, the premise is safe. Safe is kind of vague term, but I'm talking about the life or death situation, okay? So if your child is at the top of the stairs and having a non-epileptic seizures or the legs not moving, then or having these muscle twitches, then you might need to be there to kind of assist, but as long as your child is kind of down at the bottom of the stairs, let her do her thing. Okay, so again, even if it gets worse in the beginning, in a long run, you are really helping your child get out of the rut by you getting out of the control and accommodation band camp. Well, I hope you found this video helpful. Leave a comment below, and as I mentioned in the previous videos, there is a Facebook group that is completely free and private, so we can chat further with like-minded parents like you. Well, thank you so much for watching this video, and I will see you in the next video.